Right, we just got back yesterday, or I just got back yesterday from the ATU International Convention, and what we're seeing there are the attacks that are happening at BART are happening everywhere around the United States and Canada. Privatization efforts have already hit a lot of the private sector unions, and now they're coming after public sector unions. And that's really where you see the bridge between people providing the service and people that depend on the service. And I just wrote an article in the Bayview Times newspaper, rolling back the civil rights with BART workers as a major target. And a lot of what we're seeing happening is when we had a lot of people involved, when you had social movements, that's when you got gains for everybody. So the civil rights movement resulted in a lot of gains as far as education, economic rights, political rights. And now that there's not as much civil movement or social movement, you're seeing a rolling back of a lot of that. So they've gone after we just saw the Voting Rights Act, just took a major hit. So it's going to make it harder for people to vote. That's going to take away a lot of their political power. You're seeing the education system really being dismantled. And you're seeing the people's economic power being eroded. So when you're coming after the public service unions, the public sector unions, you're in effect coming after a lot of the gains of the civil rights movement. You know, with the Title VI and the discrimination for jobs that had federal subsidies, federal money. This is where a lot of folks could go to get jobs, get employment, take care of their families, have some economic improvement in their communities. And you're seeing that being eroded now as well. You're seeing what's happening to the post office. You're seeing the attacks on AC Transit workers, on BART workers. And if we look at BART, for example, BART has more money now than they've ever had in their history. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever for BART to come after their workers and say, we need you to take concessions. It's not about everybody needing to tighten the belt at all. So the workers last time, right after the beginning of the recession in 2009 negotiations, we already agreed to $100 million in concessions. Since that time, we had 4 years of 0% wage increases. Inflation went up maybe 12% or so. But the ridership skyrocketed to their highest levels ever. So that means, and they had a hiring freeze. So there were fewer people as people retire and leave for whatever reason. You've got fewer people doing a massive increase in work, so a massive increase in productivity, but their wages are falling. You're also getting increased attacks, violence in the workplace. The workers are getting attacked. What BART was not reporting to us, and what we found out eventually, that there were 99 physical assaults against employees in the last 3 years. Physical assaults. There were 1,000 physical assaults against members of the public in the last 3 years. So a lot of what we're proposing in negotiations this time is not just to get fair wages, but also to deal with the safety issues at BART. SEIU, our sister union, has a lot of issues. They've had a couple of people actually die in the workplace because of safety issues. So that's a lot of what we're trying to focus on, and you don't hear about that in the media at all. It's all about, oh, they make so much money and they need to make less money. It's like, well, we already essentially took a 12% pay cut, and now you're saying now that you have more money than you've ever had before, you need to basically continue the attacks that started, well, they didn't just start in Wisconsin, but that's where they really got visible. The things that happened in Wisconsin, going after people's collective bargaining rights, the rights for people to come together and say, as a group, this is what people deserve. So $100 million in concessions last time. They hire a chief negotiator. They gave him $400,000 to come in and try to bust this union. Now, who is this person? This person is the Vice President of Labor Relations of Veolia Transit. This is one of the biggest private managers of public transportation in the country. It's a multinational firm, and it's one of several that are trying to privatize public transit, privatize public services around, again, the United States and Canada. Like you got First Transit, you've got MV, you've got Veolia, and it's the same thing. So basically they're trying to put us out on strike. Their tactic for negotiations right now is put us out on strike and then see if we're ready to give up a 12% cut in pay or pay more for all different kinds of things that amounts to the same thing, a 12% cut in pay. Or deprive the public of the services, right? So either do this to the Bay Area or take a 12% cut in pay. And if we do it this time, what's going to happen next time? It's going to be the same thing next time. Take another further 12% cut in pay. That's what we just saw at AC Transit. In their last contract negotiations, they took a 6% cut in pay the first year, 5% cut in pay the second year, and 3% cut in pay the third year. And so they're coming at them again with a whole bunch of concessions. So We're seeing the Port of Oakland workers strike, the Oakland City workers had to go out on strike, the Hayward City workers had to go out on strike. You're seeing what's happening at City College of San Francisco, where working folks can go get an education and try to get a job and provide for themselves. So, but it's not like the economy is really hurting the way it was in the past. So in the time of the Great Depression, everybody took a hit. Then there were big social movements, and you had kind of less disparity, you know, after World War II and all that. But now what you're seeing is you have an absence of social movements, but you have a huge disparity between folks at the top and folks at the bottom. So there is an enormous amount of wealth at the top of society, and I think the Occupy movement tapped into that a little bit with the 99% and 1%. But there's an overwhelming amount of money, but they're looking at how can we do a few different things to make sure we get even more money. And the idea is to take more away from workers, take more away from the communities, take away their economic power, their educational power, and their political power, so that they don't have any way to know the facts, understand the facts, and know what to do about it, and have any political power of fighting back. So that's a lot of what we're seeing at BART. Again, it's not about what's just happening at BART, it's happening everywhere. So we're seeing it against a big attack on people that have union rights, people that don't have union rights, and people that don't, especially the folks that aren't in unions, but especially the folks that undocumented immigrants that are working. And when they start to organize, that's when the INS or the ICE gets called in now to further decrease anybody's ability to stand together in solidarity with each other and fight against what's going on. So I can leave it at that. And I guess one thing that I'm remembering is that the AFL-CIO is realizing that with the hits that the labor movement is taking, they're for the first time, they're opening up their convention. I guess it's September 8th through the 12th down in Los Angeles. They're opening it up to the community groups, not just official union delegates, but to understand that there's a major link between the community and union workers that needs to be strengthened. So they're inviting community groups to see how they can build this more as a social movement. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
For the working folks. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to drive down the wages and living standards for working folks to take away all their power, their economic power, their political power, their social power, their education, anything that would help them organize to bring some of that money that is there back down to the working class community so we can have a vibrant economy. And when we were out on strike, we got an overwhelming positive response from the people that were out there, the public. It was the high 90 percentile that was supporting us. When we came back from the strike out in the stations, people were coming up again in the high 90 percentile. They were approaching our station agents and saying they support us. But it's being reported, and obviously the media is pretty much projecting what BART management is stating, that they're trying to make it all about us being overpaid. And basically what it is trying to pit workers against workers so that they're more effective in keeping us divided, more effective in keeping us from fighting together against the folks that do have the cash, that do have the power. And that's what we need to do. So a lot of what we did with the August 1st rally was invite a lot of speakers from different community struggles and show that this is not just about BART workers. So one of the ways that BART has screwed up is they've had hiring freeze after hiring freeze, try to bring in a couple hundred new people right at the last minute to weaken our ranks, and it's actually had the opposite effect. I mean, you're getting people that are in there brand new, they're going to be living there for the next 30 years, so they're not ready to give stuff up. Combined with the people that have been there taking concessions for the last 8 years, they're not ready to give stuff up. So, but it's not just about BART, again, it's about all the workers, and all our workers, all our members are now realizing that. BART has done more to educate our workers about what's really going on, what the big picture is, than I could have done with the last couple of years of my newsletters. So I have to thank them for that. But now we're starting to see, again, workers throughout the Bay Area, and I just came back from the ATU International Convention. Our whole international is gearing up for fighting, and fortunately for us in public transit, it's a lot easier for bus drivers and bus riders to unite and see the common overlap there of cutting services, raising fares when there's absolutely no need for it. Again, with BART, they're trying to say if they give us what we're asking for in terms of safety and fair wages, that they would have to have another fare increase. That's absolutely untrue. With a $125 million service, we should be looking at how much we could reduce fares for senior students and whoever else. I was looking through the history archives at the convention, and I saw for a while there they were looking at free fares. for people. So we should look at what is BART, what can they afford, and it's not actually just providing free rides. It's actually an investment in the economy, because now you got more people that can ride, get to jobs, that kind of stuff. So again, it's how can the various folks come together, working class folks, stand up for each other in their struggle.